Welcome back to The Charismatic Voice. When I last heard Men at Work, it was in this hilarious, goofy song about Australia. I just read through these lyrics, and it already feels so radically different. I am having troubles imagining what this is going to sound like because I have no other reference than that all fun song. So let's get to it. But first, quick word from the sponsor for today's video. If you've been following this channel for long, you know that I deeply care about mental health. This is because I have struggled through dark depression. I've also experienced how the brain can affect absolutely everything in life. And that's why I particularly appreciate the sponsor for today's video, BetterHelp. No matter where you're at, you can always grow. I've sought therapy to help me through the dark times, and I've also sought therapy to just help me level up in daily life and manage stress, to run my YouTube channel and at the same time be a good mom. Therapy can help you too. I've had good and bad experiences in therapy. The key is finding the right match. BetterHelp gives me access to way more therapists than I would find if just looking locally. And it's super easy and quick to switch if you don't immediately find the right fit. I once looked for a therapist in the Los Angeles area for over a year, and I still didn't find someone. When I used BetterHelp, I was matched with a licensed therapist within 48 hours, which is the usual turnaround time for getting matched. I simply went to their site. You can use my link in the description for a discount. It's betterhelp.com/charismatic voice. And I answered a few quick questions. Then, ding, just a few hours later, I was messaging with my new therapist. That speed really impresses me, especially because when people need help, they can almost never get in to see a therapist quickly. You shouldn't have to wait months or years to get help. I also really dig that BetterHelp makes therapy possible for people who live in remote areas who wouldn't otherwise have access to it. If you're struggling or if you just want to level up your human skills, I highly recommend BetterHelp. Go to betterhelp.com/charismatic voice or choose the charismatic voice during sign up, and you'll receive a special discount in your first month. Your mental health matters.
Can't get to sleep. I think about the implications of diving in too deep, and possibly the complications, especially at night. I worry over situations I know we'll be alright. Perhaps it's just an imagination. Day after day it reappears. Shows the fear.
I can tell we're about to go into a chorus here, but before we get to that, let's rewind. Let's go back and talk about some of the excellent things in here. The very first strong impression that I'm getting is Colin Hay has an incredible ability to storytell. It reminds me actually a bit of Jim Croce, who's one of my favorite singers. Especially from childhood. My dad played a lot of his stuff. I really, really like the immediate availability of the voice. I like the lyrics, the way that the voice moves smoothly across them, and we get the sense of emotion, but it's not necessarily stopping too long in any one part because it's relating an entire story. Back to the beginning. Oh, that's an echo of that. Okay, I think that's an echo of the same melody I heard a little bit later in the song. This feels like it's the hook maybe, or I don't know. I think we're gonna hear it a lot more. That descending pattern usually is gonna feel a little sadder.
I can get to sleep. Think about the implications.
There's also something very Phil Collins about his voice.
And possibly there are complications, especially at night.
So clear.
I worry over situations. I know we'll be alright. Perhaps it's just an imagination. Day after day it reappears.
Oh man. This this is just so good. This bit about in the middle of the night that you're worrying about situations that probably haven't even happened. You're just imagining them. Sometimes I call those toilet bowl loops. It's like I feel like my thoughts just kind of spiral and then eventually they just go down a hole. And it's not helpful whatsoever. One of one of the big things in my journey as a human has been learning how to recognize the stories that I'm telling myself and recognize if they're helping me or not. And then the big key and the hardest part is really understanding that if they're not helping me, it is okay to let those stories go. That's, I feel like the moment I did that, I learned how to deal with stress so much better. It's not that I can always do that still. It's a daily journey here, but I've gotten a lot better at it. A lot better.
Of diving into deep, and possibly there are complications, especially at night.
It's like the worst time.
Worry over a situation.
Laying awake in bed. You're like, oh, toilet bowl thoughts.
Perhaps it's just an imagination. Day after day it reappears.
Yeah, there's
Night
that.
after night,
cool.
my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away.
That was a beautiful decrescendo. Decrescendo meaning that it gets quieter. Sometimes we'll call crescendos or decrescendos bird beaks because on music paper, a crescendo looks like a bird beak that's opening and decrescendo maybe one that's closing or maybe just turned around really. So decrescendos can be very difficult to control for a vocalist. Sure, some people can naturally do them fairly well. They probably don't realize all of the complication that's happening in their anatomy to do that. But one of the main things that helps us sing is breath pressure, right? And breath pressure affects loudness. It is easier often to sing a high note by singing loudly. There's more breath pressure. It increases this threshold, phonation pressure, a threshold essentially, meaning that the pressure of your breath gets to a certain point where you can then start singing a note. Your vocal folds go wacka, wacka, wacka and create a pitch. So this is so connected, this idea of breath pressure and pitch. And to get quieter, you actually have to reduce the breath pressure. That's one of the main things that controls volume as well. So it's like, it's this exercise in Pilates almost of, can you keep that pitch exactly steady while decreasing the volume? That takes a lot of control. There are a lot of vocal exercises out there to help you develop that control.
Perhaps it's just an imagination. Day after day it reappears.
Interesting enunciation in there.
Night after night my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away.
Just quick comment. I'm listening especially to the sound of his tongue height and pharyngeal space. I think that's affecting the enunciation. It might be like a little bit of accent that's entering there. I'll probably talk about it a little bit more later. But if you want to listen for those things along with me, pharyngeal space, think about how that and the height of the back of the tongue in particular are affecting the sound.
Between the sheets only brings exasperation. It's time to walk the streets. Smell the desperation. At least there's pretty lights. Though there's little variation, it nullifies the night from overkill. Day after day.
There's our title. Finally, we got to it. Overkill. I think this is the overkill of thoughts and dwelling in your own head and worrying too much about a situation. But I think there are also lots of other interpretations available, which is a good thing. We don't want songs to just apply to one situation for the most part. It's best to have a large swath of situations a song might apply to. This scene is brought back to memory times running in Sicily. Was doing some singing out there and had a lot of personal struggles there too. I love to run. I used to run a lot more. It's kind of hard to run in the Tucson heat right now, but the running is just one of the ways that I would work through a lot of stress too. And I would get up and run before there was light outside. I look back on that and I'm glad that I wasn't kidnapped. But early morning runs, this is what that looks like to me.
It's time to walk the streets. Smell the desperation. At least there's pretty lights.
I love this vocal expression right there.
At least there's pretty lights.
So as he's going into there, it like hooks into this kind of cry. It feels like it's desperate. And then at the end of the phrase, there's a drooping down of the pitch, like the opposite of what happened on that amazing decrescendo earlier. It purposefully slides off as if there's desperation and then there's dejection at the end.
Desperation. At least there's
Desperation.
lights.
Then the dejection. One more time. Those are really small details, but they do so much.
At least there's pretty lights. Though there's little variation, it nullifies the night from overkill.
Beautiful L.
Day after day reappears.
It is definitely there. This idea of more pharyngeal space. So it creates more depth in his sound. It's so interesting to me because I've got a combination in his sound of like some nasality that's coming into it, but then there's this open-throated sound that almost like there's like a slight hint of swallowed to his sound that is, I think, a lot of extra space right here. It creates a tone that is absolutely fascinating. Yet, I wouldn't say that having more space there than is usual is in any way detrimental to his sound. He sounds so free with this. People have different anatomy to sing with, and they've learned how to use it in different ways that function well. I think ultimately when you learn about voice, don't try to be somebody else. Learn how to use your anatomy in the best way. He definitely has an authentic sound, and he's learned how to freely use it.
From overkill. Day after day reappears.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there.
Night after night, my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away.
I'm going to expand on this idea a little bit because if you watch his mouth here, obviously this is a music video, so I don't know if he's singing, but most of the time when singers are making a music video, they will at least try to do it as they had sung it. And he has not a ton of movement in the front of his mouth, but that's why I'm also mentioning this back space. This feels like it's almost like a balloon. We've got the front of the balloon where you would tie it right here, and then you have all of this back space that's happening, and then sometimes some soft palate drop, which is leading to that nasality.
Ghosts appear and fade away. Come back another day.
That's fun. He's jumping up an octave there. He's got a big range. Again, a really good indication, I think, of learning how to use his voice freely. I think it's fascinating now that I'm getting more into the meat of the song to hear this and really think about Down Under, which is my other reference. There is so much longing in this. It definitely is more serious, but at the same time, it does have that moving forward vibe, right? The drum kit is not, it is not as sparse as you might have in just a pure ballad. Instead, it has a driving beat, a little more frequency that's continuing our energy forward. It definitely has some soaring moments in the vocal lines and in this instrumental as well. Lots of synths that are held for longer as well. Creates a little more longer longing. I'm going to go ahead and play. Oh, side note. That looked like a saxophone. It has a saxophone timbre overall, but is that, I want to say maybe a tenor sax in there? I think it's a variation of a saxophone. Let's see. Do I have a note about it? Yeah. Right, those feelings in the background. Totally different vibe. I love the way that they've come back to this rundown, which is it the same one as the beginning? Wait a second. 2:30. Yes, it's happening, what you've always dreamed of. We're going back to the beginning, but just to check a thing. We're going to go back to 2:30. Yeah, it is. Sorry. You all probably knew that, but I didn't. So thank you for being patient with my learning. Beautiful. That was just beautiful vocal expression. I love the way he brings in this little fast vibrato sometimes that feels so just like full of passion. And there are other times when he's got a long, passionate line that he's holding out straight. It's just different methods of communicating passion, essentially. And we still have that really wide spacing. That is so cool. That's like the extended version of that slide off that he did earlier. There's something about the way that he releases into that vibrato. By the way, often vibrato is achieved by finding balance and like backing off of the sound. It's really interesting. It's one of the most complicated things in vocal technique, though. And when he does it, he backs off of it so much, it feels like he engages the vibrato to be very wide. It sounds almost ethnic. He's developed this sound palette that is just very unique. Right there. That had that bleeding vibrato almost in it too. Fascinating. Ooh. I know I'm stopping it so much, but when he does this rundown on ear, is the vowel there. he actually uses the vibrato to start the run down. This is one of the methods that you can do to improve your runs, is actually use vibrato, your natural vibrato, to sort of jiggle into them. It's one of the main things that opera singers will do to help get their runs going really fast. And opera singers with faster vibratos might be more suited for Rossini, who has a ton of very fast runs. Check it out. One more time so you can hear it.
Day after day, reappear. Night after night, my heartbeat shows the fear. Ghosts appear and fade away. Ghosts appear and fade away. Ghosts appear and fade away.
Thank you to everyone that made this recommendation and thumbs upped it. We do look in the comments of our YouTube videos for your recommendations. This one had the most, just so you know. I think when we tallied it a few days after we premiered Minute Work Down Under, I think this had about 2,000 thumbs ups and comments. So that is one of the ways that you can get your favorite song in front of me to analyze. Another way is through our Patreon. There's a Patron's Choice every month. And if you want to hear some analyses of those songs, check out this Patron's Choice list over here. And may you fall more in love with music every day.